check. All right. Got some tunes going. Good morning. It's Thursday. Listen to the song. It's so happy and upbeat. It's about this guy who loves a girl and their love's gonna be written down in history. They die, dude.
Just like the ones in a catalog. I'm gonna show how much I love her. I'll let her know one way or the other. Our love's gonna be written down in history. Just like Romeo and Juliet.
I can only hope that the lyrics get better. And I'm dying to know if they do. So let's just continue listening to that for just a little bit. Background vocals. Oh, saxophone solo. Who do you think would be playing the saxophone in the background? Would it be Mercutio, Tybalt, Friar Lawrence? Picture the friar back there, wailing on it.
Talk about love and romance. Just wait till I get myself straight. I'm gonna put Romeo's fame right smack dab on a date. All right now I'm speculating. Wonder what tomorrow's gonna really bring.
Ooh, the plot thickens. He says he's speculating, wondering what tomorrow's gonna bring. I also wonder what tomorrow's gonna bring. Let's find out. Maybe there's a twisted turn in this tale.
If I don't find work tomorrow, it's gonna be heartaches and sorrow.
Wait, what? I gotta Google the lyrics to this. Hold on a second. Reflections room. If I don't find work tomorrow, it's gonna be heartaches and sorrow? This just turned into a song about unemployment. That has nothing to do with Romeo and Juliet. Okay, hold on.
Our love's gonna be destroyed by a tragedy.
What? Our love's gonna be destroyed by a tragedy if he doesn't find work tomorrow. But still, the song is so happy. None of this song makes sense, but I love it.
Just like Romeo and Juliet.
Everybody, sing along.
Just like Romeo and Juliet. Just like Romeo and Juliet. Just like
Yep.
Romeo and Juliet.
That's right. This is what happens when you are forced to stay in your house for too long. Yes. Starting to enjoy this. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that song. Part of me thinks I should have been a DJ like Howard Stern. But Hey, let's go over the last page of the last packet. It says reviewing Act 4. I just want to go over a couple things there. So, question number 1 asked, when Juliet arrives at the friar's cell, she threatens to stab herself. What does this mirror from earlier in the play? All right. Do you remember when in Act 3, I believe it was, when Romeo was he was in the friar's cell and he drew a dagger and he threatened to stab himself. So that kind of mirrors that. They're both threatening suicide for one another, which is, of course, what happens in the end, right? 3 things that she said were preferable to marrying in Paris. You just have to go to the part where she's talking with the friar. In the hard copy, it's on page 183. Line 78, she says, "Oh, bid me leap rather than marry Paris." Leap, that means like she'd rather jump off a bridge than marry Paris, right? Or off a tower, actually. And there's a whole bunch of things that she says right in that little spot. So if you need help with that, that's the spot to go to, all right? 3, it says, you might be tempted to argue, why doesn't Juliet just run away? You have to think about the context of the time that the play was written in. So leaving family in town just would not have been as easy as you can do it today. There are some communities in our society that are very difficult for people to leave who might want to leave. Even if you listen to documentaries about certain communities in our own area that people have tried to leave and they cannot. It's just too difficult to be an outcast or single. She's a single woman. She has to get away alone. She would have no access to resources or money. I mean, it's similar to you or anybody that chooses to run away. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's difficult, right? It's just very difficult to up and leave your family. Anyway, so that would be it for that review. Let's go on to Act 5 now, okay? Act 5, y'all ready? Oh, wait, before we do that, please make sure that you are checking in on Classroom, all right? Make sure you are checking in on Classroom. Please respond, be as active as possible, respond in those comments, respond to the reminds. First of all, A, I like hearing from you, but B, administration is cracking down. They want to know who's not responding. I know you guys got the rumor that the work doesn't actually count for grades anymore, which is true. But when we return, inevitably someday we're going to be responsible for this work anyway. So I don't want to overload you, and I don't know, just turn your stuff in. Just let me know that you're participating somehow, okay? I'm not out to get you. You guys know that, I think. All right. Anyway, let's go to Act 5. It's on page. I don't know what page it's on. I already said that before. Oh, did I? Oh, page 211 of the hardcover book. Act 5, Romeo comes in and he says, "If I may trust the flattering truth of sleep, my dreams presage some joyful news at hand." Oh, so Romeo had a good dream. He's like, "Oh, I had a good dream last night. My bosom's lord sits lightly in his throne, and all this day an unaccustomed spirit lifts me above the ground with cheerful thoughts." Oh, he's having cheerful thoughts. That's great. Good for you, Romeo. "I dreamt my lady came and found me dead." Oh, that's weird. "Strange dream that gives a dead man leave to think. And breathed such life with kisses in my lips that I was revived and was an emperor. Ah, me, but sweet in love itself possessed. But when but love's shadows are so rich in joy." So he dreamed that he died, and then Juliet came and kissed him and breathed life into him. So, I don't know, he says that's a good dream. I don't know. His definition of good dreams and mine are different, I guess. I'm just happy if I hit the lottery in a dream. All right. So anyway, Balthazar enters. This guy Balthazar, it's Romeo's buddy, his BFF, his friend. Not his BFF, but just like a servant almost. And he says, "Oh, news from Verona. How now, Balthazar? Does thou not bring me letters from the friar? How doth my lady? Is my father well? How doth my Juliet? That I ask again. For nothing can be ill if she be well. Nothing can be bad if Juliet is good." Balthazar's, and he's coming to tell her basically that Juliet's dead. Balthazar says, "Then she is well, and nothing can be ill. Her body sleeps in Capel's monument." He's basically just said she's in a tomb. "And her immortal part with angels lives. I saw her laid low in her kindred's vault, and presently took post to tell it to you. Oh, pardon me for bringing such ill this news, since you did leave it for my office, sir." So he just basically broke the news to Romeo. Romeo says, "Is it even so? Then I defy you, stars! Thou knowest my lodging. Get me ink and paper and hire post horses. I will hence tonight." All right, so that's Romeo freaking out, and he says, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. Balthazar says, "I do beseech you, sir, have patience. Your looks are pale and wild, and do import some misadventure." He's like, wait, that's basically a fancy way of saying, think before you do whatever it is you're about to do. Which we know at this point, nobody in this play thinks before they do anything. That's the whole problem. Everybody acts rashly, right? Romeo says, "Tush, thou art deceived. Leave me alone, and do the thing I bid thee do. Hast thou no letters to me from the friar? Don't you have some message for me from the friar?" Balthazar says, "No, my good lord." Now we know that the friar did send a letter, but it wasn't Balthazar he sent with, and that letter is not getting to Romeo. Romeo says, "No matter, get thee gone, and hire these horses. I will be with thee straight." He's like, "Get out of here. I'll be there soon." And then he's alone on stage, and we know that when Romeo's alone on stage, he's going to speak here. His thoughts are going to the audience. That's called a soliloquy. So he's about to give a soliloquy where the audience can hear his thoughts, but nobody else can. Well, Juliet, I will lie with thee tonight, meaning I'm going to go kill myself and lie in your grave with you. Let's see for means. Oh, mischief, thou art swift to enter in the thoughts of desperate men. I do remember an apothecary. And hereabout he dwells, which late I noted in tattered weeds with overwhelming brows, calling of simples. Meager were his looks, sharp misery had worn him to the bones. Basically what he's saying is that, hey, I remember there was this drugstore that I passed, an apothecary, and the guy looked shady. He was meager were his looks, sharp misery had worn him to the bones. And in his needy shop a tortoise hung, an alligator stuffed in other skins of ill-shaped fishes, and about his shelves a beggarly account of empty boxes, green earthen pots, bladders, and musty seeds, remnants of packet thread, and old cakes of roses were thinly scattered to make up a show. Noting this penury, to myself I said, and if a man did need a poison now, who sails present death in Mantua, here lives a caitiff wench who would sell it to him. Okay, basically he just said, hey, I remember passing that place and it looked so shady that I thought to myself, man, if anybody needs bad drugs, just go to this guy and you can get all the poison you want to kill a horse. Oh, this same thought did but my forerun my need, and this same needy man must sell it to me. As I remember, this should be the house. Being holiday, the beggar's shop is shut. What ho, apothecary! So he walks over and finds this this house, this place where he's got to go buy drugs. So during that whole soliloquy, he was able to wander over to the drugstore, the shady drugstore. So the shady apothecary says, "Who calls so loud?" Romeo says, "Come hither, man, I see thou art poor." He offers him money. He says, "Hey, there's 40 ducats, $40. Let me have a dram of poison, such soon speeding gear as will disperse it through all my veins, that the life-weary taker may fall dead, and that the trunk may be discharged of breath, as violently as hasty powder fired doth hurry from the fatal cannon's womb." Basically, he's like, give me the strongest stuff you got that could kill a person. Apothecary says, "Such mortal drugs I have, but Mantua's law is death to any that utters them." He says, "Yeah, I got the stuff, but it's against the law here in Mantua for me to sell it to you." Romeo says, "Art thou so bare and full of wretchedness and fearest to die? Famine is thy cheeks, need and oppression starveth in thy eyes. Contempt and beggary hangs upon thy back." Basically what he's saying is, dude, you're so poor, you need this money from me, just sell me the stuff. "The world is not thy friend, nor the world's law. The world affords no law to make thee rich. Then be not poor, but break it and take this." The apothecary is like, "My poverty, but not my will, consents." He's like, "Okay, I'm broke. I don't want to, but I really do need the money." Romeo says, "I pay thy poverty and not thy will." He's like, "I don't really care about what you think. Just take the money." Apothecary says, he gives him the poison. He says, "Put this in any liquid thing you will and drink it off. And if you had the strength of 20 men, it would dispatch you straight." He's like, basically said this stuff is so strong, it would take down an army of people. Romeo hands him money and says, "There is thy gold, worse poison to men's souls, doing more murder in this loathsome world than these poor compounds that thou mayst not sell. I sell thee poison, thou hast sold me none. Farewell, buy food, and get thyself in flesh." All right, so the guy says, so Romeo's like, "Here, go buy yourself some food, see you later." "Come, cordial and not poison, go with me to Juliet's grave, for there must I use thee." He's talking to the poison. He's saying, "Poison, I'm going to use you at Juliet's grave." And of course, that scene ends with a couplet. All these scenes end with a couplet, two rhyming lines to let the bozos off stage know that it's their turn to come in. Okay? That being said, let's look at the next worksheet packet. It says Act 5, Scenes 1 to 2. Okay, and up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a quick recap. And it says, the first question is, where is Romeo when Act 5 opens? Well, where is he? He is in Mantua. Correct, he is Mantua. Why is he there? You know why he's there. He was exiled. Who is Balthazar? That's Romeo's friend who came to tell him that Juliet's dead. What was the intended plan and how does it go wrong? The intended plan was for Romeo to get a letter. How does it go wrong? He didn't get the letter. Balthazar came too quickly, so nobody was depending on that. Next, it says, when Balthazar turns up, Romeo has a string of questions for him. What does this indicate about his state of mind? I mean, when when somebody comes and you're like, "Oh, tell me all this news, tell me this, he's excited. It shows that he's excited and he can't wait to go see Juliet. Okay, so the next question has a quote. It says, and the quote is, "O mischief, thou art swift to enter in the thoughts of men." And then what does Romeo mean by this? Well, this is, as soon as Balthazar leaves, he comes up with a plan to kill himself. And so when he says, "O mischief, thou art swift," mischief is something bad, right? You're up to something that's bad and something that's no good. Mischief, you are swift, you're fast. To enter in the thoughts of desperate men means that people quickly think of like the worst possible thing they should do or they could do. So, yeah. And his thought is, of course, he's going to kill himself. Instantly, he thinks that. Okay? So Romeo's new plan also is to buy that poison and go kill himself. That's a question on there, too. Okay. How does it make his more actions believable that, quote, "O mischief, thou art swift to enter in the thoughts of desperate men"? Because he's kind of saying, like, hey, I recognize that I'm acting on impulse here. All right, so the fact that he admits that makes it a little bit more believable. What is the poison to men's soul according to Romeo? What is the poison to men's soul according to Romeo? Well, if you go to page 217, you'll see a quote there that says, he's talking to the apothecary, the guy who sold him the drugs, and he says, "There is thy gold, worst poison to men's souls." What is he talking about? What does that mean? There is thy gold when he buys the drugs. Worst poison to men's souls. He's buying poison, but he says, "There is thy gold." That's worse poison to men's souls, doing more murder in this loathsome world than these poor compounds. So he's saying something does worse than drugs. It's, hey, Shakespeare gets a little political there too. Hey, you know what does worse than drugs? Thy gold. Money. That's the answer. The answer's money. Gonna have some peanuts. Okay, the last thing you have to do is create a little text message, a text back and forth between the two friars in the next scene. The next scene is very short. So let's hop to the next scene. It's on page 217. Okay, this is an exchange between Friar John, whom we have not met, and Friar Lawrence. So we're going to find out what happened to the message that Romeo was supposed to get here. So Friar John says, "Holy Let's try that again. Holy Franciscan friar, brother, ho!" Basically, hello. Friar Lawrence says, "This same should be the voice of Friar John. Welcome from Mantua. What says Romeo? Or, if his mind be writ, give me his letter." So basically, Friar John was the one who was supposed to go to Mantua. And Friar Lawrence is now saying to Friar John, "Hey, dude, how'd it go? Welcome back from Mantua." And Friar John says, "Going to find a barefoot brother out, one of our order, to associate me here in this city visiting the sick, and finding him, the searchers of the town, suspecting that we were both in a house where infectious pestilence did reign, sealed up the doors and would not let us forth. So that my speed to Mantua was there stayed." I'll say that's kind of interesting and rather apropos. Listen, he says, again, he's telling Friar Lawrence, "I was going to find a barefoot brother, one of our order, to associate me. I was going to find a friend, another friar, to go with me to Mantua, here in the city visiting the sick." And he was, the friend that I was going to go with was here in the city, and he was visiting sick people, like in a hospital. "And finding him, the searchers of the town, suspecting that we were both in a house where the infectious pestilence did reign, sealed up the doors and would not let us forth." He just says, and because they knew that I was around sick people, they wouldn't let us into Mantua. They closed up the doors because they didn't want us to bring in a virus. So basically, they were trying to stop a virus from coming into their country. I know, right? Wild. It's Twilight Zone stuff. "So that my speed to Mantua was there stayed, so I couldn't get in." Friar Lawrence says, "Who bore my letter to Romeo then? Like, who got Romeo my letter?" Friar John says, "I could not send it. Here it is again. Wah, wah, wah. Friar Lawrence is like, Friar John was like, sorry, dude. I couldn't give him the letter. Here it is. Nor get a messenger to bring it there. So fearful were they of infection. I couldn't get anybody to bring it over there. They were so, Mantua was like closed up its borders to everybody. Friar Lawrence said, unhappy fortune, but my brotherhood. The letter was not nice, but full of charge, of dear import, and neglecting it may do much danger. Friar John, go hence. Get me an iron crow and bring it straight unto my cell. He's like, oh no, that's really bad. Get me a crowbar. That's seriously what he asked for. He's like, wait, you couldn't get that letter to Romeo? Uh-oh, get me a crowbar. Now, the crowbar is going to be used to get into Juliet's tomb, right? Friar John says, brother, I'll go and bring it to thee. I mean, strange request, but he doesn't even ask. He's like, okay, I'll go get you a crowbar. Okay. Friar Lawrence says, now I must to the monument alone. Within this 3 hours will fair Juliet wake. She will beshrew me much that Romeo hath no notice of these accidents, but I will write again to Mantua, and keep her at my cell till Romeo come. Poor living corpse closed in a dead man's tomb. Basically, he's like, all right, I'm going to break into Juliet's tomb. When she wakes up, I'll tell her, hey, Romeo didn't get the letter. Come over, chill out at my house. And we'll wait here until Romeo comes back. All right, going back to the Act 5, Scene 1-2 worksheet, the last thing you're asked to do is to rewrite the exchange between the two friars in the form of a modern text message. So the conversation they just had, write that down as if it were a modern text exchange. All right? Cool. And you could summarize it. You don't need to translate it for line to line. So that's it for today. Just check in on Google Classroom. I'd like to see you guys commenting, or I want to see more of you commenting, actually, just showing that you're actually listening to this occasionally. So today's classroom question is, put this in the chat in the classroom. What time did you wake up this morning? Whatever morning you're listening to this. What time did you wake up this morning? For me, it was 4:30 a.m. and I did not go back to sleep after that. 4:30 a.m. I was not happy about that. Anyway, cool. I'll see you guys soon.
Just like